At first sight, these two statements might sound sort of too simplistic, ridiculous, okay, stating the obvious. Okay? However, it's quite clear that in the middle of the 18th century, or at the beginning of, the 19th century, both of these two statements were quite, let's say, revolutionary statements. Okay? Sort of strange, bizarre statements. Okay? That means people at that time, or the intellectual climate at that time, okay, was not that much, let's say, okay, convenient to what? To express such strong statements. That's to say, if you would say, yeah, we, the individual, we, the concrete men and women, make the society, let's say, if you would express this kind of a statement, let's say in the 15th or 16th century, I think you would be regarded as someone who went a bit too much, if not a crazy person, okay? Because, I mean, we are talking about the intellectual climate of the, of basically Europe, let's say, or Western Europe, because this is where sociological theory or sociological imagination first arose, okay? So, in the 16th, 15th, or 17th centuries, okay, it was a bit difficult to say this, to say that, okay, it's us, it's we the concrete, as I said, men and women, okay, who make the society. We are responsible, okay, from the course of, let's say, human events. And I don't know if it's proper to say, but maybe more important than this, we may know this society. That kind of daring statement. So I think the Enlightenment could be summed up by these two statements. I think without having these two statements, sociology would not arrive. Okay? Sociology, the discipline of sociology, relies upon the sort of what? It basically relies upon these two statements, okay? Or encroachment, let's say, a dissemination of these two statements. Once these two statements, let's say, became sort of normal, yeah? Once these two statements began to be taken as sort of normal statements, okay? Then sociology sort of came into existence, okay? But this is not the whole story. Then you're going to remember, those of you who attended last session, you remember that we said that we would also cover the critique of the Enlightenment. Okay? That means the philosophical and the political critique of the Enlightenment. And there I think we again have two statements, not just the opposite of the formative statements. I think the critique of the Enlightenment will basically tell us that, yeah, it's true to say that we make society. It's true that we may know the world, but with certain clarifications, okay? Or I think both the philosophical and the political critique of the Enlightenment will say that, okay, these are correct statements, but only partial. Okay? That's to say, the fact that we make society has some limits, and the fact that we may know the world has also some limits. Okay? That means, okay, it might be true to say that we make the world, yet on the other hand, we make the society, we make the social relations, yet on the other hand, the philosophical critique of the Enlightenment and later on sociology will also tell us that we are, at the very same time, made by the world, by the society. Okay? And the philosophical critique of the Enlightenment will teach us that there are some limits of, let's say, knowing this world or this society. Okay? Yeah, we may know the world, but we shouldn't be that much confident about ourselves, about our mind, about our senses, so on and so forth. Right? So this is what the, let's say, the Enlightenment will basically be about. But today, what I want to do is something different. Okay, so basically, I was trying to sum up what we're going to do this semester. Okay, basically, we'll cover the Enlightenment, the critique of the Enlightenment, the philosophical and political critique of the Enlightenment, but with a, of course, particular, let's say, what? Focus, okay, on the contribution of the Enlightenment to the birth of or development of sociological imagination, right? I mean, that means we're not going to provide a sort of exhaustive examination of the Enlightenment. Exhaustive, you know what it means? Hmm? When you use this term, exhaust, you know exhaust, huh? Yeah, it has a connection, but in social science and literature, when you use the term exhaustive, it means that covering all the basic aspects, covering all the main aspects. To exhaust something, to cover something from top to bottom, okay? So anyway, what I was trying to say, ours is not going to be an exhaustive examination of the Enlightenment, rather we'll examine the Enlightenment, as I said, with a particular focus on its contribution to the birth of sociological imagination. And in the second half of the course, I said, we'll cover the works of these four figures. There, we'll have roughly three main concerns. First, we'll of course see, I mean, we'll first get acquainted, okay? Get familiar with the basic concepts, let's say, introduced by these four figures. And then we'll examine, let's say, so-called different sociologies, okay, of these four figures. It's a kind of common, let's say, how should I say, claim that not these four, but the first three, let's say Durkheim, Marx, and Weber, introduced three different sociologies in terms of their methodologies. While Durkheim, let's say, introduced positivistic sociology, Marx introduced a kind of realist sociology, and Weber introduced a hermeneutic or interpretative sociology. Okay? And all these, let's say, have different, let's say, approaches, tastes, concepts, methodologies, so on and so forth. And lastly, we'll examine the ways in which these four figures approach or, let's say, examine modernity or modern society. As we go on, we'll understand, we'll see that, okay, these four figures have different conceptions of modernity in their minds, right? Let's say, they sort of emphasize different aspects of modernity, okay, apparently, Durkheim emphasized the, let's say, what, the fact that modern society is a kind of industrial society, okay, so he sort of focused upon the spirit, okay, rooted in the industrial society, or he basically tried to explain what kind of, let's say, world of what values, okay, we are in after the industrial society. And we know that Marx, let's say, emphasized on basically the capitalist or the capitalism aspect of modern society, whereas Weber, let's say, basically focused upon the bureaucratic part or the rationalistic part of modern society. But anyway, we'll explain what these mean in the coming weeks. So this is a kind of rough summary of what we're going to do in this semester, right? And in the second semester, we'll talk about basically theories this time. We'll begin with the birth of this sociology in the United States, but this time, instead of examining the birth of the development of sociological theory on the basis of different figures, we'll focus upon theories, approaches, schools like functionalism, conflict theory, symbolic interactionism, so on and so forth, right? So this is a kind of rough summary, okay, of, as I said, what we're going to do. But today, I want to talk about something else. I want to kind of make a kind of very general introduction, okay? Let's say, I mean, and the things that I'm going to talk about okay, are sort of my own, let's say, speculation. You don't need to take them seriously. But I just want to think together with you. I just want to think on the, on the birth of the notion of society, okay, on the birth of the, let's say, sociological imagination, so on and so forth. Okay, let's begin with a basic question, okay? Okay, how would you define sociology? Let's begin with this simplest question. What is sociology in your view? How can it be defined? Okay. Any idea? You haven't heard anything about the definition? Any idea?
Sociology is sort of disciplined study of societies and members within societies and the relationship between those individuals within the society and this individual and the society. So, and reflects that the society, how the society shapes the reality and what to say, the way of thinking of the individual itself.
Okay. Yeah, you said it's a discipline, and it's a discipline which studies society, and at the same time something which studies the relationship in individuals and society. Yeah? It's a good definition. Any other idea? You can be brave, please. Yeah.
Analyzing the community.
It analyzes community.
Okay.
And you?
Sociology is a study that studies everything that regards social action.
So it studies social action.
Yes.
Okay, let's write this down. So we first have the discipline. And here we said society, individual, and society. And you said Mohammed, huh?
Yes.
Community, huh? And you said Taha, social action. Okay. Any other idea?
As Saint-Simon said, it's social physics.
Social physics. Okay. What does he mean by that? Social physics? What's that supposed to mean? Yeah, he says so. This is what Saint-Simon says. But what could that mean? What's that supposed to mean? Yeah.
Maybe the interactions between the individual, not individual, but the group of people, bureaucrats,
Okay, groups, group of people. Okay.
and how they work. And if, for example, if a group, for example, if the bureaucrats do something, how does it affect the society? How does it affect the working class and such?
Okay.
And the physics of society makes sense. And by momentum, you affect other people as well, the other surroundings.
Okay. Okay. You're going to clarify social physics?
It requires that make some tests in society, and we name it as a sociology.
Okay, so society can be treated as something over there, as a kind of physical object, yeah? I mean, in the case of physical objects, it's quite clear that we can go observe them, yeah? We can make some, as you said, some tests, right? And then, once we finish our test, we can arrive at some conclusions, okay? So that means by means of naked observation, as we simply do in the realm of the nature, okay, we can observe society, social reality, then we could come to certain conclusions, yeah? Yeah, this is what social physics is about. Yeah, the idea is quite simple. I mean, when you say sociology is a social physics, it means that, okay, it can be treated as an object out there. That means there can be a kind of detachment, okay, between me, the observer, the subject, okay, the scientist, the researcher, between me or between my mind and the thing out there, okay? So the computer is out there. That means society could be out there, okay? When you say sociology is about social physics, that means society could be treated as an object out there. Okay, a kind of alienation. Yeah, yabancılaşma could occur between me, between the researcher, and the object. That means society. But the problem, of course, this is a kind of daring statement, huh? Why? Do you think that this is a kind of daring statement, saying that society could be treated as a physical object, or?
Yeah, because you live in the society, so for yourself to detach, for you to detach yourself from it and look at it as an outsider is very difficult.
Exactly, perfect. What's your name?
Hiba.
Hiba, where are you from, Hiba?
Pakistan.
Pakistan, okay. Yeah, as Hiba said, it's a kind of daring statement because when I observe, okay, the computer, it's obvious that there is a gap, distance between me and me. I can be sure about my detached existence from, this object. And I can be almost sure about the detached existence of this object. I can touch it, okay, I can observe it, so on and so forth. However, when you reflect upon society, you are within society. Okay? That means it's a bit difficult to be that much independent from society. So this is a problem. And this problem is going to be tackled by figures like Max Weber. For instance, they will say to us that it's a bit difficult to treat society or social relations, in this way. Rather, we need to interpret them, as we live in a kind of meaningful world, as we are always a part of society, the way we reflect upon society will necessarily be, determined or shaped by the fact that we are in a society, right? So this radical detachment between subject and object, between researcher and the object, between the mind and reality, right, is a bit impossible, they will tell us. Okay, let's go on. Okay, any other idea about what sociology is about? Okay, let's start here. Okay, yeah, so, as I said a couple of minutes ago, we have these four founding figures, and we are going to see that we have many sociological theories. And it's obvious that these theories and figures have different, let's say, ideas about what sociology is about. Okay? And for instance, you can say that generally we have the structuralists and the action theorists, while the former, let's say, emphasize this aspect, the interactionists or the action theorists emphasize that aspect, social action or group of people, etc. Okay? But I think when we focus upon the mid of the 19th century, mid of 1800s, I think sociology emerged as what? As the science of modern society. Okay? I think this can be a kind of simplistic definition of the discipline of sociology in the mid of 1800s. It is the science of society, or it's the science of modern society. So let's try to dismantle this definition, or let's say deconstruct, to use a much more popular term, dismantle partial dialectic. Okay, we are saying sociology is the science of, let's say, modern society. Yeah. So it's a science first. It's about something modern. Okay, and modernity. Different people have different ideas, but let's say it started in the, at best at the 13th century, or let's say in the 19th century, right? But it's something new. Okay, that's why we were not modern, for instance. We all agree, that we were not modern in time of antiquity, for instance, or in the time of the Middle Ages, let's say. For instance, no one could claim that, we used to have a modern society in the 19th century in Europe, right? But, people would say, we start to have a modern society in the 19th century, or some would say, no, we already had a modern society, or kind of, let's say, modern reflection upon at least society in the 13th century, that means during the Renaissance, right? Okay. So we said it's a science, as you said, discipline, It's about something modern, and it's about society. Okay? That's why it's not. Do you know the tension between these two words? Mohammed used the term community. You don't. Have you heard of this? The tension between the two terms? Huh? How can you translate these two terms into Turkish? Society and community. Huh?
Toplum, cemaat.
Yeah, cemaat ve cemiyet. Huh? Okay. A typical sociologist would tell you that sociology studies cemiyet, not cemaat. Okay? Cemaat is a pre-modern entity. A sociologist would tell you. Okay? And in fact, again, in the middle of the 19th century, there was a kind of severe debate upon this issue. Okay? Cemaat versus cemiyet, or society versus community. Okay? So that means what I'm trying to say is this. Sociology examines or investigates a particular entity called society. And apparently, this tension between community and society and the discussion upon this tension entails that society is a modern phenomenon. Yeah? It's a modern creation. Does this make sense? Society is a modern phenomenon.
Can you say that it's not a modern phenomenon, but a phenomenon that has been described and recorded in modern times?
It's a good sort of, how should I say, intervention. Okay, your friend, Muzaffer, huh? Your friend is saying that it's not a modern phenomenon, okay? But only we start to sort of use the term society once, let's say, modern way of thinking emerged. So it's a matter of naming, you're saying, yeah?
And not just naming, interpretation and understanding of it as a different entity other than.
So, but give me an answer to this question. Did society exist, for instance, before the existence of sociology?
Yes.
So you are saying yes.
As a society itself?
Yeah.
I think so.
It exists. Okay. So this is an interesting debate. My view is that it did not exist. Okay? I mean, of course, we were living in social relations, okay? And apparently reflecting upon, okay, the course of social relations has a long history. But I think, yeah, society existed only and only at modern times. Okay? I'm not saying that what I'm saying is correct. Okay? There's a huge debate upon this issue. But I think this naming issue is not that insignificant. Okay? The objects of naming, I believe, okay, could only exist after the naming, let's say, works. This is what basically figures such as Michel Foucault, okay, suggest. Okay? For instance, he says the madness. Take the example of madness. Okay? Madness at modern times is entirely different from madness in pre-modern times. Okay? In pre-modern times, we used to what? Almost live together with the mad people. Whereas when modernity started, we started to sort of confine mad people, okay, insane people, into certain institutions. Yeah? So that means the way we define, okay, madness almost shaped madness itself, the way we treat it. Okay.
So say some kind of Thomas theorem, something.
Sorry.
Something like Thomas theorem, that the way we define something makes some kind of a theory that influences itself. And
exactly. What I'm saying is that these two are not independent from each other. Naming and the very birth of the object. Okay? They're in a kind of symbiotic relationship, is what I'm saying. Okay? They may not be sort of treated independently. But as I said, I mean, mine is only one of the views upon this issue. Okay? And according to some, it can sound quite ridiculous. Okay, I admit that. But this is how I believe. Okay? But anyway, now let's go a bit back. Okay. Okay, my argument is that yes, society emerged only, let's say, with modernity, only with the birth of, let's say, sociology, etc., etc. But let's go a bit back and let's go to figures such as Aristotle and Plato. Okay, apparently these people reflected upon social relations. These people had a notion of, let's say, kind of society. But apparently, when we look at their works, what we see is that they basically worked upon what? The city-state. And they basically studied the political aspect, mostly, let's say, the political aspect of social relations. Okay? So it's a bit, I don't know, a bit difficult to say that, okay, these guys were proper sociologists. And in fact, no one would define them as sociologists. Huh? They are sort of political philosophers, okay, or philosophers. Huh? So, is this because society did not exist at that time? Hmm?
I think because the sociology basis and it was not set yet. Sociology as a science, as a study, didn't have its foundation yet.
Okay, then let's think about this. Why? How come did sociology come into existence in the middle of the 19th century? Apparently, it must have certain reasons, huh?
Necessity. Necessity.
Necessity?
As in
What sorts of necessities?
It's tremendous social changes that's happening in that modern time that enforces somewhat, but that became more observable. So this way, there was a necessity for a study of these changes and what causes them and what.
Can you be a bit specific about these changes? What sorts of changes you are talking about?
Social changes because of mechanization of societies, new kind of industrialization, immigration, all changes happening.
Okay. Then let me ask this question. Is it, for instance, likely that society, the very object of sociology, emerged as a result of these changes, so that we could have started to talk about society?
I think it's much more about our approach to the reality. In the ancient times, the reality is understood in a much more holistic way, so that people think society, politics, economics together, not apart from each other. Okay. But in the modern times, we try to examine all these areas differently, and
specialization.
Yeah, specialization exists in the modern times, and sociology can exist only in such times, not in the ancient times. Aristotle thought about social relations, but in relation with the polis, because there is an umbrella, not in a very apart form. I think it's about our approach. And this relation may happen, cannot happen, but still it's just a, how can I say, something in the old side. So it's about our mind. We began to look at the reality differently from those who live in the ancient times.
Okay, this is a good point. But let's try to, this time, distinguish sociology from, let's say, politics, from economics, from other disciplines or sciences. What is so distinguishing with sociology?
So I'm asking what is the difference between this?
No, politics and sociology.
And after the modern times, we thought politics is okay, it's about the state, but there's also a private realm within society which can affect politics, but still it's a different realm. So we may think on it as Comte and others thought, because there's a realm in which people interact with each other, and is the science we can examine, and it may be a good guide for the state and other institutions to follow. They thought they can find out a law for the relations in the society, but still they thought there's a different realm. And still, I think my point is valid. They thought there is something different, and it can be, how can I say, differentiate from those politics.
But can there be such as sociology, for instance, which would say, okay, let's forget about the political aspect of society, let's forget about power relations, let's forget about production, economy, values, ideology, and focus on this. this.
Not only, but in particular focus was on that.
But okay, let me put it this way then. Is it possible to define define the social? Okay, the word notion social, without a reference to what's ideological, what's political, what's economic.
We cannot, but we were talking about is society and sociology is a modern discipline. So once upon a time, people can think about the society and the politics, but they were together. But and the stress was not on a particular realm. But for the modern times, we can't stress. We cannot talk about the politics without society. We cannot talk about the society without politics. But still, in sociology, we focus on much more on the society. We much more talk about the society. Okay, there are political aspects, but it can be described as interdisciplinary, not holistic.
Okay, but okay, so you are saying that sociology should focus upon society, yeah? Let's think that on this society. And it's composed of what? Individuals, groups, families, and it's composed of institutions, yeah, structures, etc., etc. This is what the society consists of. Yeah? So sociology says that okay, this is the object of the sociological investigation. Okay, that means we are talking about kind of holistic, okay, body. Okay. The politicians or sorry, the political scientists could go and study, let's say, only the power relations. The economists could go and only study, let's say, production relations, and let's say anthropologists could go and study the sort of the primitive sides of the modern society, so on and so forth. But sociology should study this entity, okay, as a whole. Okay? So my question is this: when did we start to have this whole? Okay? When did the so-called, let's say, communities turn to become societies? Okay, let me say a few things, then we'll turn back to this question. Okay, starting from 13th century up until 19th century, okay, let's try to focus upon Europe, what happened in Europe. Okay, we know that the sociology emerged in Europe. Okay, so it's going to be a kind of Eurocentric explanation or investigation, but anyway. Okay. Starting from 13th to 19th century, what did happen in Europe? I think we first have the Renaissance, yeah. Then we have the Reformation, yeah. Then we will see that we have the Enlightenment. Then we have the Scientific Revolution, yeah? The modern science, let's say, emerged. I mean, we're talking about Galileo, Descartes, so on and so forth. Let's say people start to think that they may know the world, not only the society, but we may know the world. Okay? And what else? The French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, so on and so forth. Yeah? Okay, my feeling and claim is that without these developments, society would not exist, would not come into existence. Okay? Or society is an outcome of all these developments. Okay? In the end, what we study by means of the category of society is actually what? Is actually nation-state society, you know? No? Yeah. For instance, I mean, let's try to define the members of the society that we live in. Okay? Who are the members of our society? I don't know what it means, but okay, we live in a society, and we admit that there are different societies on this planet. No? But let's try to focus on ours. We live in a society. Who are the members of the society? Of this society? Can you give me an answer? Okay.
Turkish citizens.
Turkish citizens. You are not a Turkish.
I'm not Turkish. I mean.
So you are not a part of this society. This is what you think. I mean, I'm not trying to change.
In some terms, but in some aspects, I'm not.
Okay.
But there are some universal.
So you're not that much sure whether you are in or out. Yeah.
If you're going to say that the Turkish society is something and there is it's a subset of a bigger society.
Sorry.
If you say that there is a Turkish society, this Turkish society is a subset within a bigger society, which let's say is modern society, the society of globalization, the society of modern consumers, as they say, something like that.
But suppose that I'm carrying out a research in this society. I want to carry out a research.
Which society? Turkish
In
society.
this society. Okay, I don't want to say Turkish society. In this society, okay?
What are the boundaries?
What are the boundaries? Yeah. Suppose that I'm going to examine, okay, as you said, consumerism. Who should be the main targets of my research?
Consumers.
Consumers, yeah. So I should go, you know, the frontiers of Turkey. Yeah? I should go to Edirne. I should come to the, what, Meriç River, and there should I stop?
No.
On the ground that society finished, so I should go any further?
Of course not.
Not? Why not?
Because these are artificial boundaries.
Okay, that means the social exceeds the political, huh?
Yeah.
Because these are the political frontiers and the geographical frontiers as well. Okay, okay, let's again try to think on this question. Who are the members of this society? What makes a group of people, okay, the members of a particular society? Okay, can you give me some categories? Okay, can I just encourage others to speak? Okay, sorry. Ladies especially. What makes a group of people, okay, the members of a particular society? Okay. So for instance, Muzaffer said he's not that much sure whether he's a part of the society or not. Okay. If you approach from a political standpoint, obviously you're not. But if you omit this, okay, if you ignore this, you feel that you are, in a sense, yeah, part of this society. Okay. Okay.
I feel like having a history.
History. It's a good, let's say, category or ingredient. Okay, so a society, in order to have a society, or in order a group of people to become a member of a society, first they should share a history. Yeah? Okay. Okay. And what else?
Culture, couple culture.
Culture. Okay. Yeah.
Language.
Sorry?
Language.
Language. Okay, we can say that language is a part of culture, but it's a good another ingredient. Yeah.
Common features.
Sorry?
Common features.
Common
Like
features.
people.
Like what?
Like language, religion.
Oh, okay. Language, religion, again, culture. Okay. Sharing a kind of, let's say, similar culture.
Interactions.
Culture. What else did you say? History. And you said interaction, huh? Let's put this here. Can we also add geography? Living on a particular
Race.
territory? Yeah.
Geography.
Can we
Race.
also say politics, state,
Race.
race? What do you mean by race?
I mean, some kind of biological connection between the members of society, and having same ancestors, same belonging to the same. Let's not say race, but they have some kind of.
Okay. At least a belief.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
sharing
That's what I mean.
the same ancestors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As you see, we're coming closer to the niche. Okay. As we continue to reflect upon society, we started to define the niche. This is understandable. Okay. Just because the state society, the nation-state society, okay, has been the paradigmatic form of society for almost 200 years. This is for sure. Okay? But on the other hand, it's a bit difficult, okay, to equate the society with the nation-state society, because as we just, let's say, discussed a couple of minutes ago, it's a bit ridiculous, okay, to say that let's say, social relations end, okay, as soon as the political frontiers end, okay, or let's say the social frontiers and the political frontiers sort of juxtapose, overlap. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to say that, no? I mean, it's obvious that, for instance, when you go to, I mean, nowadays we are discussing this issue in a hot manner. Look at the Syrian frontier. It's a flat land, yeah? But there's a, railway? And we assume that it's the frontier which sort of separates the Turkish society from the Syrian society. But apparently on the other side of the frontier, there are people who are from the same race, who share the same language, who used to have the same history, so on and so forth, right? So yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is this. It is sort of logical or plausible to sort of equate the frontiers of the society with the frontiers of the nation-state society, yet at the very same time, we have to be aware of the fact that, okay, these frontiers do not that much overlap, do not exactly overlap, okay? So, okay, this is a good conclusion. But let's turn back to our former question, and now let's try to focus upon the sort of the developments, okay, the issues that you mentioned, which in the end, okay, gave rise to this nation-state society, or to the modern society, okay? Remember I spoke about the Renaissance, the Reformation, the modern science, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, so on and so forth, okay? I don't know how much time, okay, we don't have much time, but let me try to be as specific as possible. Okay, I think, let's try to think of all these processes together. You use a very key term, interaction. Okay? I think the French Revolution is an abstraction. I'm not talking about the concrete events. But French Revolution is about what? It's about the demolition of kingship. It's about the rise of the category of people, Rousseau. Yeah? That means politics, okay, is going to be checked by us, etc. It's going to be controlled by people, so on and so forth. Okay? I think it's only with the French Revolution, the very category of the nation, or the very category of the people, okay, emerged. Okay? Okay, through the French Revolution, through the Industrial Revolution, a group of people, began to interact more and more. Okay? That means before the Industrial Revolution, before the French Revolution, or before the, let's say, before the rise of the principle of popular sovereignty, I think French Revolution could be equated with this, rise of the principle of popular sovereignty, halk egemenliği ya da ulusal egemenlik fikri. And before the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, people were not that much interactive. Okay? Interaction was not as dense as today. It's obvious, huh? Just imagine, let's say, the state of what? The relation between a villager in what? Let's say Mersin and a villager in, let's say, Riza, in, let's say, 1500s, in the Ottoman Empire. Did they have any interaction?
No.
A typical villager. Are they interacting today?
What do we choose? Why do we choose such an example? There was an interaction with a different limit.
Okay, yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that owing to these developments, owing to the rise of the popular sovereignty, owing to the rise of industrial relations, etc., the people who did not interact once upon a time started to interact.
How?
And as a result, they became the members of the society. They started to feel that they belong to the same society. How? Okay, by means of several things. No?
For example?
For instance, the children of the villagers here,
Education.
and the children of the villagers here, every morning go and shout this andımıza. Nowadays we are discussing this issue.
Yes.
Yeah? Is this something that which sort of bonds us, or which sort of culminates with an interaction between these two kids? The one who shouts here and the one who shouts there. And when they go back, are they watching the same cartoons?
Most probably.
Most probably. Are they sort of aware of the fact that they are ruled by our Prime Minister?
Yes.
They know that. And are they all, let's say, consuming ülker çikolatası?
Most probably, yes.
As a result of Industrial Revolution. And many other things, okay? So we started to interact more and more, owing to these relations. Okay, I'm trying to finish. Okay, then we can talk. Okay, this is one side. This is the, let's say, much more material side of the issue. As a result of certain processes, as a result of certain developments, material developments, such as what? Such as popular sovereignty, the rise of popular sovereignty, industrial revolution, etc. We, or certain group of people, okay, start to interact more and more, and a kind of substratum for a society, okay, start to emerge. And as a result of the Renaissance, the Reformation, the scientific revolution, so on and so forth, okay, we started to feel or believe that we may know this substratum. We may know, okay, this entity which emerged as a result of the Industrial Revolution, as a result of the French Revolution, etc. What I'm saying is this. Society as an entity, as the object of the sociological investigation, emerged as a result of such processes, as a result of processes that I described, or as a result of those processes which enabled us to interact more and more, right? And the Renaissance, the Reformation, the scientific revolution, on the other hand, entrusted us with the ability to say, or in fact to, what? To sort of know this society out there. And sociology is the outcome of the both processes. Yeah? Do you see what I mean? Society emerged as a result of certain material processes, yet at the very same time there were some intellectual processes, okay, which enabled us to say that, okay, I may know this world, or we may know this world. It's something out there. Society is something out there, right?
So, society as a modern notion is some kind of other half that completes the process with the political side of modernity as a state and as a nation state.
I think political, economic, cultural.
So these are, it's as our modern notion of society is just manufactured to fit this to fit this kind of relation between society and economy and politics.
Yeah, this is what I think, and this is what many sociologists claim nowadays. I mean, it's a fact that we usually, okay, as I said many times, equate society with nation states.
So in this sense, we can say that society didn't exist before.
Exactly, this is what I'm saying. This is what I believe. Yeah, I mean, we used to have certain things. We used to have city-states. We used to have communities. We used to have what? The community of believers. Huh? Müminler cemaati vardı. Ummah, yeah. We used to have the citizens of the city-state. But these, I mean, okay, there are some similarities between society and these entities. Yet society is something different in terms of what? In terms of interaction. Okay? And as we're going to see, Zeman is going to tell us that, okay, interaction is the very heart of what the social is about. Okay? Yeah?
Then sociology depends on the descriptive definition of the word. And when you were telling about medicine and reason in the previous times, for example, Ottoman Empire, the range of maybe society was smaller, and we had this small society there, the Mercian.
But yeah, this range is important, but the small things are not society. I mean, we have different disciplines to study small things. We have the anthropology, yeah. We have ethnology, ethnomethodology.
But then you have...
we have psychology.
But then sociology has to have a specific number of people in order to have a society. And is Denmark a society then, just with 5 million people?
These are very important questions.
So we're just saying that society is a notion that can't be used before that time. Like we can't use nation to describe states before modernity.
I think we can say that, but on the other hand, your remark is quite critical, in the sense that, in a sense, we can say that we are all living in a world society, okay? Because we are all now sort of, what?
Interacting.
In a sense, okay? We are all interacting. I think we should all vote for, vote in the presidential elections in the United States, okay? This is what I believe, as we are the members of the kind of world society. But what I'm trying to say, okay, there is a kind of ambiguity, okay, as to the frontiers of a particular society, okay? sort of what I'm trying to say. As we discussed, it's a bit difficult to say that, okay, the social relations end, okay, in Edirne or in Hatay or in Kars, etc., etc. Okay? But on the other hand, it's quite clear that the level of interaction that we have, for instance, here in this class, that we have between Riza and Mersin, okay, is not, cannot be observed. For instance, between whom? Between me and a person in the States. Okay? But on the other hand, for instance, here, you might not, how should I say, meet, let's say, 69 million citizens of Turkish Republic in your life. Okay? Yet at the very same time, you can have some connection with people living in Germany, in the States, etc., through your internet, through your computer, etc. Okay? So in this sense, it seems that the people, these 69 people and you are not, let's say, the members of the same society, whereas the people that you are interacting with, okay, do belong to the same society. That means there are sort of overlapping frontiers, and it's becoming more and more difficult, okay, to sort of specify a particular society.
Then, for example, in the previous time, we could directly differentiate the Ottoman society with the European society, for example, because they have different cultures, or the French society with the English, because they have different cuisine, different cultures, different beliefs, different world perspectives. Then, if we can call them the French Middle Age society because of their culture and history and all these stuff, then we can also call it a society.
Okay.
French monarch.
Yeah. We shouldn't go any further. What I was trying to do was this. Let me try to sum up once more. Sociology as a discipline emerged, okay, at a particular moment, yeah, and this moment was conditioned by certain, let's say, intellectual and non-intellectual, intellectual and material, let's say, developments. This is what I was trying to say, basically. Okay, so sociology, okay, is a result of a combination of, let's say, material and immaterial, material and intellectual, discursive and extra-discursive developments. Okay? Under the title of extra-discursive developments, I mentioned what? The French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, the rise of, let's say, interaction, so on and so forth. And under the title of the intellectual developments, I spoke about the Renaissance, the Reformation, and what else? Modern science, so on and so forth. What I'm trying to say is this, okay? Sociology is the result of this set of developments, let's say, okay? It's a bit difficult to sort of, understand how it came into existence without examining these processes. Yeah? If the Renaissance, let's say, had not introduced the idea that, okay, we the men or women, okay, sort of are free and we may understand the course of events in this world, then it would not be possible, it would be impossible, okay, to have a sociological imagination. Not sociology itself, but sociological imagination. And the same could be said, okay, in relation to the other developments as well. Yeah? If the Industrial Revolution did not connect millions of producers, okay, then we would not have society. This is what I'm trying to say. If the French Revolution did not introduce the idea of popular sovereignty, then we would not have a society. We would not have the discipline of sociology. Yeah? Or, we would have something, but this thing would have been something different. This is what I'm trying to say. Yeah? Okay, this much for today. As I said, this is a kind of very general introduction. I think, okay, no, üçten mi bitiyor bizim dersi? Pardon. Okay, we could continue. Okay, but, okay, I hurried up, but anyway, we have some time to go. Okay, as I said, this is a kind of general introduction, and the problematique of this introduction is something peculiar. Okay, you don't need to, how should I say, focus upon it, okay, in the coming weeks. Okay? In the coming weeks, we're going to do something different. We'll have a kind of very formal examination of what the Enlightenment is about, of what Kant said, so on and so forth. But I really want you to keep this question, this problematic, somewhere in your mind. Okay? For this semester, for the rest of for the second semester, and for the rest of your life. Okay, as I said, you don't need to be convinced about this argument, but just keep this problematic in your mind. Okay? It's a kind of fruitful problem. Okay? Whether sociology, okay, emerged, okay, owing to all these developments or not, or whether we could have had sociology without all these developments or not. Right? Okay, any question, contribution? By the way, okay, bir devam kağıdı alabilir miyim? Attention sheet, please. Can you sign something?
İsim soyad yeter mi hocam?